Hello, beautiful people. Carlos Perez here. So on this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can actually use Mimikatz as a RAT, a remote access tool. This is something that a lot of people do not know that the Mimikatz proof of concept code actually provides. It's a feature inside of it. We'll go over some of the IOCs, we'll go some of the behaviors of the tool itself, and also we'll go into how you can actually use Mimikatz for persistence, how you can install Mimikatz as a service so you can connect back to it to be able to leverage this capability.
Okay, so for us to be able to actually leverage Mimikatz as a remote access tool, we're going to be using the Rpc module inside of Mimikatz itself. So when we look at this module, we actually have three main commands in there. One of them is RPC server, which starts the RPC server and registers that endpoint that is to what we're going to be connecting to. That's what actually gets started on the target machine. And then we have RPC Connect. That is what we use to connect to that server to be able to issue all of the different commands and leverage all of the modules that are inside of Mimikatz itself. The other command is RPC enum. RPC enum is a command that we're going to be using for enumerating all of the different registered RPC endpoints. This is very useful not only for checking if our Mimikatz server is running on the machine or not, but also it is very useful specifically for situational awareness. One of the things that we're going to see is that many security products actually register with the machine as an RPC endpoint. And this will be of great value to us as we're performing tasks on the network or on a target machine. So let's take a look at the first command that we're going to be using, which is going to be the server itself. So RPC server, I can run it without any parameters at all. And that will just simply start a regular RPC server, and it won't even require authentication for me to connect to it. It has actually two options that we can use. One of them is called secure, which will force the RPC server to only accept connections that are authenticated locally against the machine. All authentications will always be NTLM, so there's going to be a logon session locally on the machine when we connect to it. No reg is to not register the endpoint itself. This is only useful for testing. We would never use this in an actual engagement or to demo this as an attack, because then we wouldn't be able to connect to it. It's just a simple internal way of just checking. Let's take a look at the module itself. So here I have Mimikatz running on a Windows 10 machine. And when I want to look at the different commands that are inside of a module, I just do RPC : and here I have the multiple options available to me, or the multiple commands for this specific module. So I have server, connect, close. Close, it would be to close a connection once I'm connected. And we have enum. So just let's start a simple server. RPC server. We just started a simple server here. Security, allow no auth. So authentication won't be required. So once we start the server, one of the things that we need to be aware of is that on some machines, if the firewall has not seen this executable before trying to open a port, it will trigger an alert. This is something that we need to be aware of. Now, I've seen customers actually disable the installed Windows firewall, install a third party, and in many cases, I've actually seen customers just simply disable it completely in their day-to-day firefighting, trying to fix a machine. They'll disable it as part of their troubleshooting procedure. When we connect to the machine, one of the things that we're going to notice is depending what tool are we using to connect to it. Is it Mimikatz itself or even Impacket? The Impacket SMB library can actually be used to connect to the RPC endpoint. One of the things that we're going to notice is that if we use Mimikatz, it's going to be RPC or port 135 or port 445. If we're actually using the SMB library from Impacket, it's going to be 445. And it's going to look just like regular plain vanilla SMB traffic. And it's actually going to be encrypted using the SMB3 extension inside of Windows, which is provides us even more obfuscation, you might say, allow us to blend in better into the environment itself. Now, to connect to the machine, what we're going to be using is we're going to be using the Rpc Connect command, and we can also specify an algorithm for encrypting our traffic. So let's take a look at this right now. Okay, so let's connect now to the server itself. As you may remember, the server that we started, it's set up for no authentication. So I don't need to provide any credentials or anything. So I can just do Rpc Connect server cl1.acmelabs.pvt. And now I'm connected to the machine. Now, when I want to issue commands to this machine, I need to append them with the asterisk. So let's do asterisk. I can do net. I can even get the help information. I can just look at this. I get help information for the module from the other side. I can just run if. You can see the machine is CL1. I can even see the IP address 10.101.101.21. I can look at sessions on this machine to check who has connected to it. And I see that the only connection here is for the user Rpc. He's part of the domain Acme Labs, and he validated against the logon server DC1. I can check what are the users on this machine. And here we go. So there's a user called admin, another administrator, default account guest. So the only local users here is admin. And we see the administrator's the main account here on the machine. So as you can see, I can do quite a bit of enumeration on the machine. Now when I look as to who am I running under, you will see that I'm actually running as Rpc. So I may probably authenticate with another user to the machine, but every command, everything that's going to happen on the target machine is going to be under the context under which Mimikatz was actually launched at the other side. So I can do probably process list processes at the other side. If I want to run something on the other side, I can also do it. So as you can see, it's quite capable in terms of a remote access tool as an agent if I want to persist on a machine. When I go back to the server, one of the things you're going to see is that each one of the different commands that I ran are going to be logged into the console here. So as I mentioned before, we need to do asterisk and then provide the privilege, not the privilege, the command that I want to run. So it's going to be asterisk module, name of the command that I want to use. If I want to close my session, I'm going to be doing RPC close. That will close my connection here. So I can go over here, RPC close. I close my connection. Now, what about if I want to do impact it? So here's my Kali box. So if I go inside of Kali and I'm looking here at the different impact examples, if I take a look at them, there's going to be one called Mimikatz.py. In the case of Kali Linux, I don't have to be in this folder to execute this. I can just do CD, for example, be in my root folder right here. I just need to do impact Mimikatz. And I can just specify the command here to connect to 10.101.101.21. And here you can see that my session got established on the machine. Now I can run commands on it. I can do coffee, I can do net if. As you can see, in the case of Mpacket, I don't need to specify the asterisk for my command if I don't want to. So this is an advantage that we have with Mpacket. Now, when we look at Mpacket, one of the reasons that I really like this library and this tool and method of connection, one, I can run it under Linux. Two, it has a plethora of different authentication methods that I can use. In the example that you saw, I was connecting to it, just running no authentication at all. But if I wanted to, I could use LM/NTLM, I could use an AES key, I can use an MIT Kerberos cache ticket if I wanted to make this connection. So when I run the command, you can see, if you run it by itself, you can see all of the different options you can use there. You can do like I just did in the demo, where I just connected to it simply by providing the IP address or the FQDN as a parameter. If authentication is set up, then I'm going to have to connect to this machine providing credentials, either domain or local. I can specify the password in the string, or I can just have it ask for it if I don't specify it. Another option that I have is that I can use landman hash and NTLM hash to authenticate to the host. So let's take a look here. Let me do RPC server. Let's stop the server itself, killing all connections. I'm going to go over here and exit. I'm just going to say secure. So now only secure connections are going to be permitted. So you can see security, secure only. This is what we would actually use in an actual engagement if we were using this technique for an engagement. So let's connect now to the machine, authenticating using credentials, since now our server is set up as a secure one. It's going to ask me for a password. So you can see I got it authenticated on the machine. Now when we go over there, we should have our prompt. Yeah. And here we are. Again, even though I use the domain admin credential, when I take a look at this, as who am I running under? I'm running under the context of Mimikatz itself. Under what user was it actually installed as or running as? So let's exit here. Now let's do something. Let's install Mimikatz as a service on this machine. I'm going to be doing, RPC server stopping the server. So now I have here a Mimikatz window open. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be installing Mimikatz as a service. So for this, I'm going to be using the service module. If I look at the module itself, there's an option called install me. So what I'm going to be doing is service plus. This will install Mimikatz as a service called Mimikatz SVC. Now, if I connect to this service by my credentials, and I do token who am I, I'm going to be running as system, because that's under the context that the Mimikatz service it's actually running. Now, this is something you can change in code, and you can compile your own version of Mimikatz. In an actual engagement, this is what you're actually going to be doing, because every EDR or AV product out there is going to be able to detect this. And any security team that sees a service on a machine that actually says the word Mimikatz running, it's going to kind of look off. So this is something that you can actually modify. Anything that you can actually do is just simply modify an existing service in the registry somehow cause a blue screen or do anything to get a reboot on that machine, so that service will start on next startup. And that will provide you kind of like a persistence mechanism when you're operating in this kind of environment. This is very easy to track. Specifically, installation of a service should be easy to detect. You should actually have auditing or sysmon running, monitoring these services registry key to detect if somebody's adding one by hand or somebody's modifying an existing one. In addition to that, you should be looking at your firewall settings if somebody actually opened a port for an executable that you have not seen before. Also, your logins. This will always create a login as a NTLM for a domain user on the local machine. So right now, if I go to my server here and I go to the event viewer and I look at my logons, it's my recent logon on this machine. If I expand the information here on it, you're going to be seeing that the administrator account authenticated to this machine under main Acme Labs, and NTLM was actually used for the authentication. And here is my in-packet machine or my Kali machine IP address. So this is going to look off in a real production environment. Most users that authenticate to the machine are going to be authenticating using Cabros. So this would be another IOC that you could actually use for hunting in your environment to see if somebody's actually connecting to this machine this way. We can also enumerate all of the RPC endpoints, and we're going to be looking specifically for this UID that is going to be unique for Mimikatz. And also, if they have not modified Mimikatz itself, you're going to actually be seeing Mimikatz RPC communicator come up as a name of an endpoint set up on that machine. If you actually have special shared access, you should be able also to log for this. So when we look at the UIDs, the UID that we're always going to be looking for, if it was not changed by the attacker, it's going to be this one that you see here on the screen. This is the default hard-coded one for Mimikatz itself.
Okay, I think that you guys more than likely found that interesting. A lot of you probably didn't know that Mimikatz actually had those capabilities in it. Well, thank you for your time. Remember, like and subscribe, and I hope, again, that you found this content quite useful.